All right. So, my father called last night, and we were talking, and we got into the world of politics. And my father was like, do you want to know the 4 years of Trump? And I kept on arguing that there is no difference between Biden and Trump. And I was starting to state all the things that Biden had done in his 40 years to bring about the things that Trump is doing. And that Trump was just as bad as Trump, but worse because he's had 40 years to do it. And so, I had heard and watched about the, Biden saying, don't shoot him in the heart, shoot him in the leg. After Trump's, during the protests and also about, Trump calling out the military for basically martial law. And my father was arguing there's a world of difference. And here's a simple thing, and this has been pointed out on Hardlands Media and other places everywhere. What is the difference? What is the difference when you're going to be the next president who's actually one of the main architects of the very inequities that we're currently protesting? When he says, "Don't shoot him in the heart, shoot him in the leg." Now Hardlands was talking about how Pelosi and Schumer and the Democrats, with the exception of Alexandria Cortez and some of the other truer, more moderate Democrats, had voted against, basically reauthorizing and giving more power to Trump and others to do what basically essentially comes down to a security police state that the Patriot Act and all those others are. And so the control, which is on the Democrats, are basically conservative right wingers. Who are completely and utterly in line with the Republicans, and so they passed it, and then the Senate passed it overwhelmingly, because the Senate is filled with right wingers, and neither are representing the people, and so basically, when Biden gets in there, is there any question that if the oligarchy sees a necessity to bring out the military, that Biden isn't going to do it? He probably won't do it as stupidly and as blatantly and obviously as Trump has threatened, but Biden will do it in a sneaky way. So, no, there is no difference between Biden and Trump. The powers that are given to the executive seat of the presidency is going more and more to an outright monarchy, giving monarchical feudalistic power to a single person, which is always a bad thing, because if you give more and more power to one person, they're more than likely kind of use that against you. So even if you're Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer or Mitch McConnell, that power can be used against them and will be used against them. So it's absolute insanity for people like my father to think that there is actually any wiggle room or even space between Trump and Biden. There is none, and it's insanity for Bernie to believe that. And so I think the only thing that's going to prove how right people like me are is when they realize that their own actions and the complete inaction and complete uninterest, as well as semantics and insanity by those who have the voting power, the ones that can override the few and really bring about calls for actual justice, real justice, and real equality, are those the rural landowners, such as the farmers that own land, the rural suburbs, the metropolitan suburbs, and the metropolitan urban areas, and the city, and those, and all of them have one thing in common: they have enough affluent standing. The ones that the propaganda establishment media does most of its propaganda towards, to give lies to, and say, oh, everything is looking good, oh, everybody else is wrong, you're doing the right thing. It will be to the point where, like, just like how these reporters are getting arrested by police. Now, these are affluent people, okay? Whether you're black, white, or whatever. These are the affluent voting class. And you see the video where I forget what station, but she's out there, and they're like, "Are you all right?" And she's getting shot at by the police, and they're like clueless as to why the police are shooting at them. And I think it's going to take something like that, but instead of being shot with rubber bullets or pepper bullets or whatever, they're gonna have to see when their homes are raided by the stormtroopers. That is law enforcement. That is that can potentially be the military. They're gonna have to see when their economic financial security utterly disappears to the point that they can't see, they can't ignore it anymore. And ignore is the root of ignorance. And so I think something catastrophic has to happen, and enough of them feel the effects to understand how wrong they were, how much they've been lied to, how their thinking that has been turned to this conservative. The way I look at conservatism and libertarianism and all that, and right wing and the liberalism, the conservative liberalism, and even the non-conservative liberalism, the moderate liberals, and so on and so forth, is that there is a large portion of ignore ignorance. And as long as you're not actually personally affected, in many in a way that doesn't impact you in an immediate way, they'll keep ignore ignorance going, and then they'll finally start to wake up a little and say, okay, this is personally now affecting me. I'm now getting it. I'm not getting it. And so now the empathy and compassion will start kicking in because there's self-interest. And self-interest is basically selfishness. And that will kick in. They'll say, okay, I think I get what they've been trying to say. I think I understand. And then they'll start to get more awake as they'll see others getting others in their class community get affected. And right now it's bad, but it's not bad enough. It's bad, but it's not bad enough for them. And that would be people like my father or my aunt or my extended relatives, because they are all in that class bubble, and the hurt hasn't hit them hard enough for them to open their eyes and wake up. And that's basically what it comes down to. My brother is in that class as well. And when I say affluent, I'm not talking about, they're worth $100,000. I'm talking about class as in they're comfortable enough, they're not hurt enough to them in personally to actually wake up and stop ignoring the realities. So, and that's what's become necessary. And unfortunately, we haven't reached that. We haven't reached that level, because there are people in my neighborhood who are working hard, and so on and so forth. But even the small smidgen, and these are not affluent people. They make enough to not they make enough to have a patina, a small tiny patina of security, and it applies to them, but they don't have the elite class of voting. And whether you're a white poor, or you're of the brown minority who feels the brunt, along with the white poor, the herd hasn't hit, and that's another factor. The herd has to hit something. It has to be so blatant, and I think a time like that is coming to the point where you can't ignore it, no matter what corner of the United States you exist in, and the territories. But I think that time is coming, where the hurt will be so open and obvious that it just can't be ignored. And I think then compassion and empathy, and a willingness to ignore ignorance will start kicking in, and there will be an interest in having the curiosity to look into it and research it and have and take an active part